BRIT School is low-key my personality. And I love everything about it. My team was saying, you're going to be in Spotify radar. And I was like, wow, how on earth has this happened? This is so weird. I remember this place so well. Oh.
Rachel, should we go way back?
Let's go way back. I knew about BRIT, but when I was 14, I was too scared to apply. BRIT School is the only free performing arts school in the UK, and I didn't think I deserved to be in the school. Then when I was 15, my music teacher sat me down and he was like, you need to apply. You won't know if you're going to get in unless you try. Having other people believe in me before I believed in myself is the reason I think I've ended up where I am. I think my first acting through song, I sang Somewhere Over the Rainbow and I burst into tears. At that point, I would only sing in my bedroom. So it was very weird to then be sat in a class with like 20 students expecting you to sing. In my brain, I was like, they think I can't sing, they think I'm terrible. And he kept playing it and didn't stop to ask me to do it again, nothing. And it was so embarrassing, but the whole class started singing it with me while I was like crying my eyes out. It was quite a turning point and I realised I had quite a long way to go. I'd almost like not done anything before, so being able to try everything, I just threw myself into it. I always want to come back to BRIT all the time.
Yeah, that phrase back to BRIT is a thing. Students that have moved on into the industry and feeding back is just such a part of the culture here. We often say to students to kind of keep connecting with the alumni, do an arrangement of some music by these artists.
These people?
Yeah.
I've covered a few people's songs and then ended up on their tours. And it's like, you actually never know who's watching. I've had barely any views and then they'll be like, hey, do you want to do this tour? And it's like, yeah.
Where do you find your inspiration for your music in your daily life? And is any of your music inspired by your time at BRIT?
BRIT taught me to allow the world around me to inspire the music that I make. At 16 is when I started writing about how I felt and realising that I can actually translate how I feel into songs. My friend Marcus, I remember being on FaceTime with him and would just talk for ages just about anything. But then I just started talking about how I felt about him and I was like, Marcus, I hope that our memories stay. So my darling. And then I remember getting to the end of the chorus and being like, 1 second. And then I made So My Darling and that was one of my first big moments.
How did the next bit happen, the leap through to the next stage of this being your job?
For the career I wanted, I then searched up people whose careers that I loved at the time. I then would also go to Stuart Alden's office almost every single week. I'll just be like, who do you know who can get me in the industry? And he was like, you're closer than you think and you'll be fine. He was just like, stick to your guns and stick to your craft and you will get there and it will find you. In BRIT, my brain wasn't seeing this as work. And then when you enter the industry, it almost feels like, I don't want to say everything gets watered down, just everything's done in a standard way. And I started being like, oh, how do we get that energy back? And you start drawing towards people like that. I feel like it was you or Lorraine who told me to let my brain go as far as it wanted to, and then you fix it. Then you bring it back and fix it after. And that's something I've always kept as well. I know everything is possible.
As a black woman in indie music, have you faced any challenges trying to break into the scene?
Woo! Yes. Meeting with my manager, he was like, you might fall into the issue of being misgenred. I think it was frustrating, it was really heartbreaking. There being like soul princess or the hip hop Lily Allen. I actually started realising that I'm being seen and stereotyped for being a black person versus people actually listening to what I'm doing. And then, I made a post about being black in indie music and it went massively viral. It's funny because Spotify was one of the first people to be like, we know what you're doing. They knew of all the other artists who I thought were inspiring in the same world and they're like, don't worry, we are doing the things to change these things and we're very aware of it. Now I don't face that hurdle anymore, which is quite lucky. But then I look at when I go to festivals, indie festivals, and everyone's white. And it makes me feel like I have a duty of trying to speak out about that more to make sure that more black and POC voices are heard and allowed in these spaces.
You sent me a picture of us on the red carpet. And I didn't even put anything together. Like, I was like, BRIT's nomination there. And Rachel sent me this picture. Obviously, you were looking through your pictures. And then there's you, 2 Brit nominations.
Yeah.
And we were all just like, wow.
I don't even want to be dramatic, but it was low-key a bit traumatic, I'll be honest. I was in floods of tears. A Brit Award nom, that's something where I would tell my future kids if I decide to have any kids. I can't believe I managed to do that when I was 26.
I feel like she's the encapsulation of Brit.
She's just a big inspiration to all of us.
Yeah.
She said earlier that she sees like a little bit of herself in all of us, and that really made me feel like we're able to achieve quite a lot.
It's no surprise she's up for the Artist of the Year at the Brits on Saturday. Let's wish her luck. Put your hands together for the Artist of the Year.
Always Brit. This is all I ever asked.
Brit is like a sacred place for me, deep down in my heart, which sounds a bit soppy to say, I'm sorry. But I just always remember how I felt in Brit and how magical this place feels still to this day.
Oh God, what a time, guys. You've given me a time.
People always told me that it would happen. Didn't expect it, but I wouldn't trade a single part of the journey, ever. So yeah, very lucky.
Thank you so much. I love you guys.